Good morning, everyone. We're excited to be here to talk about Gen Z. It is an interesting group, age 12 to 27, but with sort of a lot of legacy traits in the way they're looking at the world. So it's going to be a fun discussion, and what I'd like to first do is let each of our panelists introduce themselves, where they're from, and the product that we're sort of going to talk about as it relates to them today.
Great. Hi, guys. How's it going? Lisle Friedman. I am based here in Nashville. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Casa Komos Brands Group, startup portfolio of brands really focusing on the premiumization segment. We've got our ultra-luxury tequila Komos. Hopefully, a few of you guys got to try it. The Sunday happy hour, the Tuesday happy hour. Superbird, the product we'll be talking about today, is a line of canned tequila cocktails, or RTDs. And we've got Doladira, an elevated alpine aperitivo that is female-founded, inspired by the Dolomites, Campari Aperol competitor. And we just launched, hopefully some of you also got to try it at the breakfast bar. Thank you, Media Post, for letting me promote all my products here. Stuzzi, an Italian-made hot sauce, stuzzicato to tantalize, to entice.
I'm Jeannie Hannigan. I'm the Senior Brand Manager at Little Leaf Farms. We are the #1 packaged salad brand grown through controlled environment agriculture, or greenhouse grown, in the entire country. We have greenhouses in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, and we're available at major grocery stores in the east coast of the United States, and growing really quickly. Today I want to focus on our new salad kit product. We launched it in Q4 last year, and that's basically lettuce plus dressing and toppings that can be really conveniently combined and enjoyed all by itself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Nevoso. I'm with Bayer Consumer Health. I work across the North America Consumer Health team. Currently, I'm in a role which is called Marketing Excellence, Brand Building. I build our internal capabilities. But previous to that, I was on the brand side. I've worked on many of our brands within the portfolio and touch a lot of them today because I work with a lot of the brand teams. Today, I'm going to focus a little bit on Midol because that was an area that has been kind of a pioneer in how we think about Gen Z and has kind of been our flagship to kind of educate the rest of our organization on how they can think about it and how they need to think about that generation as they move into targeting them and reaching them. So I'm excited to share some of those learnings with all of you.
Super. Thank you, ladies. So our first question to the panel as it relates to the product they're focused on in Gen Z is, how are they targeting this market, this consumer, and what are the two largest challenges that they see because of the breadth of the age group as well as the change of the characteristics and traits? So Christina, you want to start for us?
Sure. I think when we went on our journey, so Midol's been around for a really long time. It's like over 100-year-old brand. And to get the opportunity to basically rebrand a brand that's been around that long, we realized there were some key things we needed to do first, and we really needed to understand the audience that we were speaking to. However, girls get their periods very early, so anywhere between 9 to 12, and then all the way up into menopause. So we spoke to women across all those age groups to really understand where there was opportunities to potentially, which audience we really wanted to speak to. What we found the sweet spot being the Gen Z and millennial audience. However, we knew that Gen X and Boomer were also an audience we needed to speak to because those women were buying for the younger, because those were the moms. And so we needed to make sure we weren't segregating that audience. And it was really challenging because you wanted to be bold and you knew you needed to get an opportunity to really reach that audience and get them to feel like you're an authentic brand. At the same time, you didn't want to segregate mom who was like, I'm not going to buy that for my daughter. It's way too aggressive. And there's a lot of products that were at the time entering the market space D2C that we were competing against. So as we looked at the portfolio, competitively, those D2C brands were coming in, and it was challenging for us to come in and can we do this in an authentic way as a bigger organization? And it worked really well because we spoke in a voice and tone that this audience wanted to hear from us. we continued to do that work, and we're continuing to extend ourselves and reach that audience by being more authentic. And today, if you look at some of the work, if you look at our social platforms, you'll see that we are talking to this audience in a very natural way that feels like it comes from them versus it coming from the brand. And that's been really an important key thing that we've learned.
Super, thank you. Jeannie?
Sure. So packaged salad is a commodity product for sure. It has about 85% household penetration. So similar to Christina, we're in a place where we are targeting a really vast range of consumers, especially when it comes to age. And so we've been traditionally really focused on like millennial families and Gen X. They have tons of buying power in the category. But Gen Z is something that we see as an opportunity right now, where they're not our biggest, as far as dollars spent in the category, they're not our biggest segment, but they're going to be one day. This is a demographic that we really want to understand and test strategies against now, so that when they do kind of come up to a place where they do have the spending power, they're starting families and getting more into like this position of being the primary grocery shopper in the household, we're there for them. We're building that like brand recognition early.
Absolutely. And so let the record show when I say targeting Gen Z, I'm talking about the percentage of Gen Z I'm legally allowed to talk to here. So that 40%, 21 plus. But the two big challenges for us is there's no shortage of tequila coming out right now. It's a very saturated market, and we are going up against The Rock, Kendall Jenner, big brands with big influence and big budgets that we're never really going to compete against, coupled with Gen Z's consumption habits, alcohol habits, drinking less, conscious of what they're putting in their body. And at the same time, content has become infinite. There's no shortage of platforms where you can watch your TV or get your social feeds. But what's finite is your hours in a day. We've all still got 24. And of that, you have to sleep. You've got to eat. You have to shower. You have to work. So there's only a finite amount of time that you can consume content or be engaged with a brand. So how are you meeting them with smaller budgets and less reach in an authentic way? Cancel culture is real. So you're standing for something, you're not appealing, you're not alienating a certain consumer group, but you have true to your values. And how do you approach this segment and make sure that you're at the same time, as marketers, we got to be able to prove that the spend we are making works.
Exactly. Good. That's great. So it's interesting. So this Gen Z group, for you, the LDA and above. But one of the things that's interesting about them is the fact that they sort of have an old soul mentality when it comes to their money, right? They're being very, very smart about their money, and at the same time, the market in consumer product goods is being super premiumized, right? So some of when you think about salads, great salad kits, and the costs, and super great tequilas, your perspective from the different range of the products that you're looking at, that spending habit, you've got to break through that as well. Even though they're also super knowledgeable. So you've sort of each touched on it a little bit, but I'd like you to sort of expand on the successes that you've had as it relates to breaking through to the Gen Zs. And most importantly, the metrics that you use to define that success.
So I think with us, we've extended our portfolio. So most consumers didn't know the difference. They didn't realize that Midol is a multi-symptom product. It provides benefits beyond just pain. Some of the challenges with that are the fact that we sit in the pain aisle. So we extended our distribution, and we're able to get, with the relaunch, we're able to get distribution in the Femme High area to start educating women. In addition to that, that was like our number one priority with the relaunch. We needed to make sure that we continually are educating people on multi-symptom, and that continues to still be a challenge for us. However, with the relaunch, we were able to achieve and bring in new households. So we saw a huge uplift in household penetration, which was our main goal as a brand. And we were able to extend ourselves, and I think it became more of, a household brand for a lot of consumers, and they believed in the product. So just to remind me, what was the rest of your question?
Well, sort of the metrics.
The metrics.
metrics.
I mean, we really looked at household penetration for the relaunch. When we're looking at our media metrics, that can be more challenging because it also is about building brand awareness, and that's a long-term push. So sometimes organizationally that can be challenging because we want the immediate return. So we do look at ROI as well, but I think ultimately for this business, we're really focused on household penetration as well as building brand awareness. So we're doing longer term like brand lift studies, and as well as oh my God, I'm drawing a train of thought. Brand health trackers to kind of track that.
Well, and it's interesting. So for all of you in consumer product goods, in that case, in what you're talking about, you're switching your category, right? You're asking for, if I'm understanding you, a secondary placement within the store for a reset. So you really you have to take two steps to get to that, to achieve that. A, getting them to agree to position it in a new category in the store.
Yeah, we got secondary placement in
Right.
most retailers with the relaunch. And prior to me being on the business, we were in FemHi, and then they lost that distribution over time, and it just continued to happen, and we were able to convince the retailers to take it in. And now we've extended our portfolio. We've just launched a supplement product. We're moving into other categories and segments as well. So we've found an opportunity through the work that we did originally with the relaunch to really extend ourselves as a brand.
And dare I bring up sales as it relates to marketing, but let's do it. Because I live on both sides of the fence. So for all of you, again, the metrics, right? On the sales side, we live on, velocity per point of distribution. So the more points of distribution within the store obviously drive that, create trial, bring that new consumer in. So it is always sort of a fascinating place to live, because your metrics, as we relate to metrics, your metrics go towards more household penetration, and ultimately, the ROI is there when you're able to affect in-store, household, and then those velocities follow.
We also created an on-the-go pack for the relaunch, so that lived in FemHi, which made more sense in the sanitary and FemHi area based on the shopping behavior. So we did, as part of the relaunch, do that as well, because we knew that we weren't going to get the secondary placement without an additional SKU and something unique and offering to the consumer and to the retailer. So that helped us as well.
Great. Lisle?
So we ran a campaign for Superbird. It was our canned cocktail, and it was the best damn cocktail that happens to come in a can. And we wanted to tell the story that Superbird is the drink of choice for the people that you want to hang out with at a party. And what we used is we went very old school, like you said, and we gave not influencers in the typical sense. We're not talking Alex Earl here. We're talking local legends in communities with influence. We gave them disposable cameras and a couple cases of Superbird, and we got out of the way. And we said, tell us how to have the best damn summer. Where do you go to we don't want to just see a sunset. We want to see the best damn sunset. And we hired, bartenders or influencers or people in their communities with a voice. And from LA to San Francisco to New York to the Hamptons to Denver. And we built an entire campaign run adjacent with, rich media ads on the side, but full page takeovers, and let them tell their story in short form content coupled with the visuals. And, if we're talking to our co-founders, I'll talk about time spent, click-through rate, conversions. But the real metric that I was interested in was that social listening, the amplification of not just the people with influence, but their networks, how they're sharing what they were writing to their communities and their friends, tagging. We talk about the T-shirt test. Is that T-shirt cool enough that they want to wear it around New York City? And we really try to keep a finger on the pulse of who in that community has influence, not influencer in the typical sense. But, the spike in sales didn't hurt either.
Awesome, that's great. Jeannie, how about Little Leaf?
Sure. So packaged salad and salad kits is a really crowded category with pretty low brand awareness among shoppers. And so with our kits in particular, we were a new player in a super saturated space. So we thought, like, we need to go really over the top and have some fun in order to break through. So we launched in January, kind of playing off of this theme of return to office, what we called the Happy Desk Salad Kit. So knowing that people are, bringing their lunch to work, eating through work meetings, Gen Z in particular, an insight we got is that almost 60% of them are packing their own lunch nowadays when they go to the office because they want to save money. And so we thought, perfect, here's a salad kit. It's, a heck of a lot cheaper than a sweet green salad these days. So let's bring them into this conversation and have some fun with it. So we launched this big, the Happy Desk Salad Kit, which allowed you to spruce up your desk for your lunchtime. It came with a candelabra with battery-operated candles, a lidded napkin, a desk shade to protect you from everybody hates the overhead lights in their office. And then we amplified that through a partnership with Corporate Natalie, who is not a traditional creator partner for us. We really try and stay in the lane, or traditionally we've done a lot of recipe content. That is always very popular. But we thought, let's approach this with a sense of humor, with somebody who really gets this like corporate messaging. We had her make 2 videos, including an unboxing of the Happy Desk Salad Kit, showcasing all of like the silliness. And it was a huge hit. We had people commenting on the video saying, I didn't even realize this was an ad until the end. This is how you do advertising. And then from a metrics standpoint, obviously looking at like views, engagement, things like that, we amplified the content through boosted content on TikTok. So we boosted the campaign, and we saw like 4 times above the benchmark engagement on click-through rates from the Gen Z audience in particular. So that was a success for us, again, relatively new to targeting Gen Z. And I think the qualitative feedback is good too. So people commenting, what are people saying about any piece of content you put out? Like that listening factor is really important for us as a brand, but I think in particular with Gen Z. Like if they like something, they're gonna tell you. If they hate something, they're gonna tell you. And like as a brand, it's just so smart to listen and be responsive and reactive. And then going back to sales as a data point, because that is very important, like it or not. As of last quarter, we do now have the best-selling premium packaged salad kit in New England, which is our hometown, and hoping to grow that success throughout other markets as well.
Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome. So before we go to Q&A, one quick takeaway regarding Gen Z from each of you and through your experiences with these programs.
Jeannie, I think you really hit on it, that we don't talk about enough. We use the word authenticity so much, but I think having a little fun with what you're doing, right? Like, don't be so serious. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to be disruptive. But at the end of the day, have a little fun, bring them to the table, hear their voice, interact, and invest in community management. They want to be heard, and they'll tell you how they feel. So utilize that for insights.
Yeah, I think building off of that, being able to be really like agile with your content is important. Every week we sit down and have a social media meeting, and we talk about like, all right, what's going on TikTok today? Like, what's trending? Are there opportunities for us to like hop on board something in a way that feels really true to the brand and can be entertaining? Not every trend is a fit, and so we have a really good sense of like when to jump on it and when to pass. And as a smaller brand, we have the luxury of doing that without like several layers of approval process. But I think that's something that that businesses could benefit from, looking at as they look at kind of like processes, right? So like if you're able to be responsive and hop on a trend quickly and produce content that's, maybe a little bit unpolished, that performs so much better than anything that is like very produced. And, as pretty as that is, like I think Gen Z is really shifting towards this authentic homemade style of content.
So to piggyback on both what you both said, I think one is making sure they have a voice at the table. And actually, as part of my new role, one of the things I'm trying to do is actually bring them to the table. So one of the things I do internally is build our in-house capabilities, and I am looking to, so if you have any takers, I'm open. If you have any children at home, maybe we're in your local in New Jersey, we want to bring them to the table, have the conversation, have the real conversation, go deep, understand them, give them the opportunity to have a voice, and hopefully bring that back to our teams. As I said, internally, we're looking at this audience across the board. Some brands can implement it better than others. A great example of that is like leaning into culturally relevant moments. We're doing a lot of that type of work by doing our social listening and ensuring that we're listening to them and making sure we're inserting ourselves into those conversations as much as possible. So those have been like the key things that we have done across the board at Bayer. I think on Midal, we're definitely more of a progressive brand in going after this audience. So we definitely want to try to stay authentic to who we are without segregating them in any way. And I think we do that really well by listening to them, understanding them, and creating content where they want to actually engage with us.
We can go to questions. Yep.
Hi, Josh Spiegelman, Burns Entertainment and Sports. So a key theme that I heard through a bunch of you guys is leveraging influencers and community ambassadors to reach a very elusive target. We work with a lot of brands who sometimes struggle because they try to be overly prescriptive with messaging. And so what would you tell those brands in terms of how you guys approach it in the best way to work with influencers in an authentic, genuine way?
That's a great question. I'll jump in on this one. We deal with it all of the time, and the more we get in our own way, the less impactful the content that's created. So we focus, at best, let them remember 3 things, maybe, but what is that soundbite that they're going to take away from the conversation with? They're not just focused on telling your whole brand story and aligning with your ethos, but it's are we going to identify evangelists, and then how are they going to repeat and sell our brand to their friends, to their brother, to their girlfriend? So I think, giving them traditional forms of like a Polaroid camera or a disposable camera, whatever it is, and let them create content that works for them and their audience. And you might come back with something like we had Katya Sue, Nadamakan Sue's wife, we work with her a lot, we love her, Cocktails and Kicks. And she brings out, a new Nike or some type of gorgeous shoe, and then she makes a cocktail around it, kind of matching the color or the vibe, but it's so authentic to her. And we could say, oh, we're a luxury tequila, we don't want to mix, if we're mixing a cocktail, it looks like it's not as good of a tequila or not as premium. But we let her make those cocktails, and the engagement and the followers and the giveaways that come as a result of that. So let the influencers fly. Have some fun with their content. You don't have to amplify everything, but it'll be best from their own voice.
I'm going to just add one thing to that too, because I'm the founder and have a brand, and find myself sometimes trying to be very prescriptive. And what we found, and very clear metric that came to an end very quickly, was dictating content to influencers. And it was a massive fail. So, I'm all in for learning. When you see that, learn quickly and get the hell out, right? So, I hear you loud and clear, and I learned very quickly from that, because when we were building Sam Adams, none of this existed, right? Social media didn't exist, so it's a new world.
Faith Nettles with Lamar Advertising. I'm curious, you talk about being bold and authentic to break through the media, but I am a part of Gen Z, and I there's always a new influencer, there's always a new product, and how are you thinking about retention and after you break through, like keeping that Gen Z consumer around? Because I think that we are like willing to try a lot of things, but it's always what's trending and what's next. So how are you thinking about that?
I could take that maybe a little bit.
You don't live in New Jersey, do you? Because I think
Exactly. Do you want to come on my
we're
round
looking
table?
for somebody like
No, I think again, I might be preaching a little bit, but I feel really strongly about this and passionate about the fact that you have to know what you stand for as a brand and really lean into that. And in the Midol case and in some of the other brands I've worked on, and this is one of the things we're working on internally, is embedding that into who you are is going to come through, and it's going to feel authentic if you don't like over prescribe it. So similar to what Josh was mentioning earlier is we also too can sometimes, I see content and I'm like, this is too forced. No one's going to watch this. This is not authentic. The audience is going to be like, you're so fake. Stop trying so hard. So we also are embedding processes internally to get away from that, because we know that in order to resonate, and then in today's day and age, if you're not a social first brand and it's not part of your DNA to begin with, it's really hard. You're not going to survive. It's going to be really hard. So for legacy brands, it's really important to think about that and incorporate that into your DNA. I don't know if anyone else.
I can add to that. I think, we've heard a lot about like Gen Z is shopping on values. You can tell me if that's true or not. But the way we grow at Little Leaf is very sustainable. We're indoors. We're able to produce more lettuce in, one of our 10-acre greenhouses than, 30 acres of fields out in California. So, we use less water, we never use pesticides. So, that's not a leading message for us yet, although I'm very envious of Lando Lakes, who's going there. I hope that can be us one day. We're starting with, flavor and shelf life and freshness, the things that we know people care the most about. But like having a story, especially a sustainable and a forward-thinking one, I think is something that is going to work a lot to our benefit.
She's nodding, so that's a good sign.
Okay, good.
I'll add that to my round
Right.
table.
Excellent, nailed it. No, but I think that's not going to get them in, but having that kind of story behind us is really going to help, with the long-term retention piece of it.
Okay, back here.
So you touched on how you had mentioned that you had a small budget. You're in a space where it is very difficult to make any big moves, especially with major brands and, it just being such a big market to penetrate. So you touched on, it seems like you had to be very strategic and prioritize certain aspects in terms of your budget and trying to make and disrupt a market that's so difficult to disrupt. So what became your top strategies and priorities in order to accomplish and start making the movement and increasing sales?
It might be an unpopular opinion in this room because of, performance marketing and all the digital service providers out there. But I say nothing beats a strong street game. You got to get out there. You got to sample in retail stores. You ride along with the distributors and do a blitz. I know this is alcohol specific, but I think we talk a lot about we can't just target one-to-one. We target one-to-many. So we go to communities, different cultural groups. Tattoo culture is big for us. We talk about running clubs, music scenes, and we're really trying to infiltrate where there's a community of people who drink together. Superbird is meant to be what starts your story. It inspires a moment. And then those stories live on and they get passed down. So, I guess to boil it down is I say you got to be out there in the field. You got to listen to the bartenders. You got to pour samples to consumers. And you've got to be on the back end of your social media and hear what people are really saying and then be able to react to that.
A really simple way of thinking about that is liquid to lips
Liquid
and
to
feet
lips.
on the street.
Yes.
I mean, and do it because
Love a good alliteration.
I think what we're hearing is the trial, repeater loyalty game is harder than it's ever been, and with smaller budgets. And you've got to sort of build an anchor and build out from that as you gain your success.
One more question, if you don't mind. also, he reminded me, Lauren Corgetto, head of marketing at Chef Marito. Were there any strategic partnerships that you aligned yourself with, like right off the bat, that you wanted to, yes, to help accomplish your goal of increasing sales?
Yes, you know, I think the big campaign that we ran with finding the different evangelists in the city, where with Vice and Refinery, we also, you know, thank you to Joe Marchese, he sits on the boards of some media out-of-home companies. We bought, we were able to take advantage of unsold inventory at the end of the year. But then what we do is, okay, maybe we're putting up a billboard in a city that we don't have distribution in yet. But we're using that meta, that social proof of people posting and amplifying that messaging and then driving that home, that social currency we talk about a lot. So how is that, you know, it's not just that billboard ad, but how are we getting the extra mileage out of that billboard ad as long as it's up?
Thank you.
One last lightning round question, just because it's top of news, and it's sort of top of the mythology of media buyers about Gen Z, which is TikTok. If TikTok goes away tomorrow, how much harder does it make your job to find Gen Z?
It makes my job a lot easier because legally we're not allowed to be on TikTok yet. So
There you go. There you go.
I think there's this kind of natural association with like, oh, reach Gen Z, advertise on TikTok. They're there for sure. Something that surprised me in our recent ad data is that we're performing best with people over 55 on TikTok, and we're performing best with Gen Z on YouTube. So, you know, they're not just on TikTok. Look where they are. They're everywhere.
I would agree with that because the average age on TikTok is actually 30 plus. So Gen Z may have started there, but I think they're starting to move into other outlets as well. So, yeah.
Great. That's a great data point. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much,
you.
Michele.
Thank you.
So let me ask Jen and Ruthie to come up.